Hi, my name is Alina Momin. I am a registered nurse in Texas. Today, I'm going to be talking about how you can pass the Nclex on the first try. And I'm going to give you some tips and tricks, as well as how I studied for the Nclex. If you want to know how, keep watching. Tip number 1, set up your Nclex date for within 1 to 3 months of graduation or your ATT, which is your authorization to test. I say this because the longer that you wait, the more likely you are to forget the information at hand. Nursing school is jam-packed with information, and the more information that you don't use day to day, the more likely you are to forget. Number 2, do your practice questions every single day. I cannot stress this enough. You need to do your practice questions. This is how you really will be able to hone on all of your abilities, all of your critical thinking skills, all of that knowledge that you learned in nursing school, and be able to show it on your Nclex. So by doing practice questions, you're really taking all of the information that you learned in nursing school and applying it to real life situations using your critical thinking skills that you are going to be using as a nurse. And that is what Nclex really wants to test all of us future nurses on. So my third tip is to review your textbooks and your books as needed, not cover to cover. Once you do the questions in UWorld and do any kind of practice questions, honestly, you'll be able to see what kind of topics that you really need to focus on. By taking those topics that you need to focus on from your practice questions, you can then go to your textbook, open up your textbook, read about the topics, and just take a really quick skim at what information you're missing. When you're trying to read from cover to cover, you're not using your critical thinking skills. You really need those critical thinking skills. So use those books as a review, not your sole source of studying. Tip number 4 is to select the answer that is safest for your patient, meaning that it causes them the least amount or no harm at all. This is usually going to be your best bet. Number 5, always think in the order of airway, breathing, circulation, which is your A, B, C. Usually when you have a hard time answering a question, you can always go back to your ABCs. You need to know, does the patient have a patent airway? Is the patient breathing? Do they have circulation in their body? Those are the 3 most important things to remember when answering Nclex style questions. Number 6, for your select all that applies, really understand why or why not. Why is this question right? Or why is this answer choice wrong? Sometimes we get so overwhelmed with all of those answer choices, and the best way to overcome those questions is simply by taking it one at a time. Don't get overwhelmed by the number of options you have. Instead, focus on the why or why not. Number 7, take educated guesses and do deductive reasoning. Sometimes you can see that, oh, this answer choice doesn't look right. This one doesn't look right as well. So you only have 2 choices left. And between those 2 choices, you have to take the educated guess based on your ABCs, based on what you've learned in nursing school. What is the safest option for your patient? Choose that answer. That is going to be your best bet. Take an educated guess. Number 8, if you don't know the answer to a question, that's okay. Answer the question, move on to the next question. But when you go to that question, focus on that one question at hand. Do not focus on that question that you were trying to answer before and you didn't know the answer to. Because more than likely, with that mindset of still thinking about the previous question, you're gonna miss this question. Even though it might be something that you know, you're gonna miss it just because you're simply still thinking about the previous question. So if your question is out of sight, keep it out of your mind. Don't focus on it. Focus on the now. Focus on what is in front of you and take it one step at a time. So I wanted to talk about what changes were made to the 2020 Nclex compared to the 2018 that I took. In 2018, we had between 75 to 265 questions. Now, with this new 2020 Nclex, there is 60 to 130 questions. So the amount of questions is a lot lower than how much it was before. Also, the time limit. In 2018, you had 6 hours to take the Nclex. In the 2020, you only have 4 hours to take the exam, but you also have a shortened amount of questions. It seems doable to me. So now I want to go into how I studied for the Nclex. So the number 1 biggest thing that I did was I did UWorld. I did those practice questions. I did the comprehensive exam that they had as well. So I did 75 questions every single day. That was the minimum for me. And the closer that I got to the Nclex, I bumped it up to 150 questions a day. So I would do 75 in the morning and I would do 75 in the evening. I felt like doing these questions were the best at giving me the achievement of passing my Nclex, just because every time you did a question, you got an answer that was either right or wrong. Let's say you had 4 choices. I picked one and that was the wrong answer. So it tells me why this one is the wrong answer, but it also gives me an explanation to all of the other choices didn't pick as well. So it talked about why this answer choice is right and the explanation to that, why the third one is wrong and the explanation to why it's wrong, and the same thing with the fourth one. This one is wrong and it explained why it's wrong. I really like that UWorld really went into depth and they really answered why a certain question is supposed to be answered this way and why it's supposed to be answered this way. I felt like I really didn't need to go to another textbook or anything else to really understand why certain questions needed to be answered in certain ways. I felt like UWorld was really great at emphasizing what points you really needed to know as well. I felt like a lot of the topics that were covered in UWorld were also covered in the Nclex. So that was a huge game changer for me because there were a lot of similarities between UWorld and the Nclex. I honestly felt like the UWorld questions were a lot harder than the Nclex, just because I was so used to the UWorld questions and the level of intensity that they were, that I felt like the Nclex was a little bit lower than UWorld intensity, if that makes sense. So just because I was practicing with these high intensity questions, by the time I went to the Nclex, I felt like I was okay. I was good. By the time I left, I thought I had done okay. I had at least passed. I don't know how well I had passed, but I felt like I passed with the help of UWorld, of course. I appreciate UWorld so much. Not only did it help me, it helped a lot of my friends as well. All of my friends used UWorld. They all passed on their first try, and I think UWorld has done a great job at explaining all the information, explaining what their reasoning is for all the right and wrong answers. I think it's great. Now, the second thing that I used was the Saunders Comprehensive Review textbook. I used this more as a review guide. Anytime I was on UWorld and I had topics that I felt like I didn't have a lot of information on, a lot of knowledge on, I would go back into that Saunders review and I would just review it really quickly to see what information I was lacking. I liked the Saunders book because it was colorful and the information was really concise and short and sweet and to the point. I also used the ATI books. The ATI books were provided to me from my nursing school. They also had a whole bunch of practice questions that I could take in them. This was great as well because it was concise, just like the Saunders book. I didn't really use the ATI book as much. I used the Saunders to review mostly, and I used UWorld. That was my biggest priority, biggest everything. That was my saving grace, my life savior. That was everything for me. That was how I passed the Nclex. Without UWorld, I don't think I would have passed or done as well as I did on the Nclex. I graduated in end of April and I took the Nclex in the beginning of June. I really only spent about a month studying. UWorld had a whole bunch of questions that I could take and I just did as many as I could, and I felt like that was the most prepared I had ever been for the Nclex. Without UWorld, I wouldn't have known what to do. This wraps up my video for today. I just wanted to say congratulations to everyone that's graduating from nursing school in 2020. I'm so happy for you guys. Congratulations again. I hope you guys do great on the Nclex. I hope these tips for the Nclex really help you. If you have any comments or any questions, comment down below and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. If you guys have any recommendations on what videos you guys want to see from me, just comment down below and I'll be making a video on that topic. I hope to see you soon. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!